Long before modern espionage relied on laser grids and satellite surveillance, a lone operative executed a flawless, brutally effective hit inside an impenetrable ancient fortress. For 18 long years, the Israelites had been crushed under the weight of an occupying force from the Empire of Moab. The Moabites had pushed across the Jordan River and seized Jericho, a vital, lush territory known as the City of Palm Trees. This gave them a stranglehold on the region's food and wealth. The man demanding this tribute was King Eglon. He ruled from a heavily fortified palace, and the historical records explicitly note a very specific physical detail about him. He was an exceedingly fat man. Striking Eglon with a conventional military force was out of the question. He was deeply entrenched and heavily guarded. Taking him down would require an entirely different, highly asymmetrical approach. The Israelites selected a man named Ehud from the tribe of Benjamin to deliver their latest tribute. Ehud possessed a distinct physical anomaly that made him the perfect operative. He was left-handed. In the ancient world, nearly all soldiers were right-handed. Because a right-handed swordsman draws his weapon by reaching across his body, security guards were trained to exclusively pat down a visitor's left hip. Ehud went to a forge and commissioned a custom weapon. He had the blacksmith craft a double-edged dagger exactly 1 cubit in length. A cubit is an ancient measurement based on the length of the forearm, roughly 18 inches. Instead of wearing it where the guards would look, Ehud strapped the 18-inch blade to his right thigh, completely hiding it beneath his heavy robes. His left-handedness provided a built-in exploit. By placing the weapon on the opposite side of his body, Ehud designed a way to walk a deadly weapon right through the imperial security net. Ehud arrived at Eglon's fortress, leading a procession of men carrying the mandatory tribute of gold and crops. This delivery served as his Trojan horse. At the gates, the guards followed their standard protocol. They thoroughly checked Ehud's left side, found his empty left hip, and let him pass. Ehud presented the vast array of gifts to Eglon. As soon as the transaction was complete, he ordered his entourage of porters to leave, ensuring they were safely on the road home. Once his men were clear, Ehud turned back alone and approached the king's private quarters. He told Eglon he had a secret message from God, meant only for the king's ears. Intrigued by the prospect of a divine secret, Eglon commanded silence. He dismissed his entire security detail, leaving himself completely alone with Ehud in his private upper-level summer parlor. By stacking a layer of social misdirection on top of his physical asymmetry, Ehud successfully isolated the heavily guarded monarch in the very heart of his own stronghold. Ehud stepped closer and whispered that the message was ready to be delivered. In anticipation, the massive king hoisted himself out of his seat. In one fluid motion, Ehud's left hand swept across his body, gripped the hilt on his right thigh, and drew the hidden blade. Eglon was entirely unprepared to block a strike from that angle. Ehud drove the weapon upward with immense force, plunging the entire 18-inch dagger directly into Eglon's abdomen. Because of the king's extreme body weight, the force of the blow pushed the hilt entirely past the surface of his skin. The dense abdominal fat closed around the wound and swallowed the handle completely, trapping the weapon inside his body. The deep puncture caused an immediate, catastrophic biological reaction. The blade pierced his bowels, and the king's bodily refuse spilled out onto the floor. This brutal sequence of events left Ehud without a weapon, but the blade was perfectly disposed of within the target's body. The gruesome reality of the wound also inadvertently provided the exact cover Ehud needed to make his escape. Ehud was now an unarmed operative standing over a dead monarch, with a full detail of royal guards stationed just outside the chamber walls. He quietly stepped out onto the porch, pulling the parlor doors shut behind him. Before slipping away into the shadows, he deliberately locked the heavy doors from the inside. The guards eventually returned to check on their king. They found the heavy doors secured from the inside, while the unmistakable smell of biological refuse began seeping under the doorframe. Putting the locked doors and the foul smell together, the guards fell victim to a massive psychological blind spot. They assumed Eglon was covering his feet, an ancient idiom for using the chamber pot to relieve himself. Ehud weaponized their social conditioning. The guards' profound embarrassment at the idea of interrupting their king during a private bodily function bought the assassin a massive, life-saving window of time. They stood outside that door for hours. The ancient text states they waited until they were literally ashamed to delay any longer. Finally, they retrieved a key, unlocked the parlor, and found their ruler dead on the floor. That manufactured hesitation gave Ehud the exact head start he needed to vanish. He fled past the quarries and disappeared into the rugged hill country. Once he reached the safety of the mountains of Ephraim, Ehud blew a ram's horn, known as a shofar. This issued a loud call to arms that echoed across the ridges, rallying the Israelite militias. With the Moabite leadership completely decapitated, the newly energized Israelites surged down from the hills. They seized the shallow fords of the Jordan River, creating a lethal choke point. There, they trapped and slaughtered 10,000 fleeing Moabite soldiers. By meticulously exploiting both the physical blind spot of a right-handed guard detail and the psychological blind spot of a deferential royal court, one lone operative executed a precise tactical strike. That single act dismantled an entire occupying empire and secured 80 straight years of peace.